Washington, D.C. made for March 1st and 5th for the National NATO Conference. Traveling by plane.
I would like to amend that to add myself to it as well.
Okay.
That should be for all supervisors.
Okay.
When you approve a travel like that, typically the minutes will reflect it. It applies to all the supervisors.
Okay.
Well, I'm part of all, so.
There.
It has been moved and seconded. I forgot what I'm doing
We didn't get a second.
Second came on Greg.
Supervisor Gregg.
No, he made the motion.
He made the
Who made the
motion.
motion?
I made the motion. Who's on
He
first?
made the motion.
All right. I thought Graham made the motion. It was Graham's motion.
Yeah.
Okay, we got it, we're correct.
Oh, you want us to do it again?
Oh, no, sir.
You want to be the motion?
I'm good.
And Tony be the second?
I'm good either way.
Okay. We just want to make sure that we have your minutes.
Let's just get it done.
Yeah, all right.
Just get it done, yes, sir.
Now that we have a motion and a second, all in favor, you say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Any other?
No, I'm finished. Thank you.
All right. Under my name, there are several items. I'm going to take them out of order, if you don't mind. One, there's a presentation by Capital Area Bar Association, and I'm not sure if they're here. Okay, so we come to the, okay, yes, come to the floor.
Mr. Recorder, Your Honors, I'm Collins Warner. I'm president of the Capital Area Bar Association this year.
And I'm Ben Piazza. I'm the chairman of our Law Library Committee. And the Law Library Committee is established under a statute which authorizes the Board of Supervisors to put a fee add-on to all of the cases filed in county, circuit, and chancery court in Hinds County. That's been on for many, many years. The Law Library Committee makes recommendations to our Board of the Bar, who makes recommendations to you as to the disposition of the library funds. The library fund itself is a special fund which can only be used for purposes related to the library. What we have done for many years is the recommendation has been that the county should contract with the state library and with the Jackson Hinds Library to, in essence, have branches of the Hinds County Law Library in their facilities at the Eudora Welty and at the State Library. In addition, we have provided with workstations in the courthouses. We have one here in the third floor. We have one in the circuit courthouse. And then we have libraries themselves with books in the Raymond Courthouse and various purchases. We're going away from books. As you know, most people now are using computers. But we still have some treatises like the Encyclopedia of Mississippi Law, Mississippi Digest, things like that. What we are recommending today is that we renew or amend and continue the contract with the state library in the amount of $30,000 per year for 3 years, and that we amend and extend the contract with the Jackson Hinds Library in the amount of $30,000 for 3 years. We also are recommending, for many years the county has had a part-time law librarian by the name of Barbara Neal. I think she's been doing it for over 25 years. We have a contract that we're recommending for her, which is for $5,100 for the year. So I think that's $480 a month, something like that. It's in the what we presented. We also deal or get requests from the judges in both circuit and chancery court. And y'all may recall that in the past, y'all have authorized the purchase of the Elmo systems for the circuit court. Those are the systems where you're able to, either by computer or by laying it on a screen, you set up a video presentation for evidence. The Mississippi Attorney General's office several years ago opined that we could use the funds of the library for those purposes, and we've done that. In this case, we have a request from the Chancery judges, specifically Judge Owens. As y'all are aware, the attorneys and litigants are not allowed to have cell phones on the third floor. There's a need for being able to communicate with the judges and the attorneys and their clients, and the Judge Owens has requested that we install a conference phone setup up there. It's approximately $500 some odd dollars. It's in our recommendation. All of these recommendations are basically extensions of previous usages that you've authorized. The fund itself has, as I understand it, approximately $187,000 in it today. The recommendations that we have made today would roughly match what the annual intake into that fund is. It basically varies from the filings that are made month to month, but it runs around $5,500 to $6,000 a month. And the recommendations we're making today would be roughly about that amount. Can I answer any questions about it?
Supervisor Graham?
Thank you very much. Number one, I'm a proponent of the Elmo. I've seen it work, and I think that it's very good. But I'm also a proponent of what our board attorney tells us, and that is if we sign anything or if we look at anything, when it deals with the contract, they need to look at it first. Have this contract been submitted to the board attorney's office because of the nature of the contract?
Yes, sir, Mr. Graham. It has. He's reviewed it. I don't know if he's here or not. Yes, he's here.
You reviewed all the...
There's some minor tweaking that he would like us to do, and we're going to do that, but there's nothing substantial.
I know there are a lot of uses for the law library, so all of the funds will come out of the law library fund?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how much would it be total?
It's roughly close to $70,000. It's $30,000 to the two branches of the state library and the Medora Wealthy, $5,000 roughly to the law librarian, and then it's $500 roughly for the system upstairs. There's probably approximately another $5,000 to $6,000 that pays for, you have to update the books.
Right.
And the law librarian does that. So it's roughly about $70,000 that we're
I agree
asking.
with this, and I'm going to support it, but I just want to make sure. Peter, do we have a copy of this, or did we get a copy of this in our packet?
I'm not sure whether the board was provided a copy. I did receive a copy on Friday. Talked with Mr. Piazza on Friday, and also spoke with him and Mr. Warner this morning. I've looked at the contracts. There are some minor revisions that I've suggested. They graciously agreed that those revisions they can make, and everything will then comply with law, as well as the fact that we will only spend the funds that are designated for the library and not any other general fund of the county.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
The funds that are going to the state and the county library, are we renewing, or these are additional funds, or
These-
because I'm not aware of
We've had a contract in the past with the statute which authorizes the law library fund, authorizes the county to fund it, specifically provides for contracting with the local library to, again, expand the law library system for the county. About 8 or 10 years ago, the legislation was amended to also allow contracting with the state library. The Supreme Court saw that there was availability of funds and wanted that to be done also.
Any other questions? Supervisor Stokes?
Thank you. In terms of the law library, I think the quality is somewhat poor. How do we make sure that, and I know it's not going to compare to the law library at Mississippi College, what do we do? If we got these funds, how do we improve the quality?
Well, one thing we do, Supervisor, I don't have a copy of it with me here today, we prepare a brochure that the county pays for that lists the availability of legal resources in the county. We keep copies of that at the libraries. We keep copies at the circuit clerks and the chancery clerks' desk upstairs, so that people who come into the court and don't have an attorney or trying to find out how to find about legal resources can be directed to either Eudora Welty, which has 2 workstations with LexisNexis Legal Research, or to the State Library, which has Westlaw capabilities and is available to the public. The lawyers primarily are the ones that will be using the workstations here upstairs and in the circuit courthouse. One of the things we're trying to do is to better advertise the resources so that more people will be aware of them and utilizing them.
In terms of all the different things you presented today, we're not expected to vote on anything today. I guess I'm asking that because we haven't received anything. We haven't had anything to look at. I know legal said they got some on Friday, but there's no way you can expect someone to vote on something if you don't have anything that you can inspect, read, and know what you're voting on. That's just not what I foresee as being progressive. So, Mr. President, we're not expected to vote on anything today.
I will ask for some, it's under my name, but I'll explain that in a few seconds. But I'll yield to our attorney as to what his recommendations are on that. Supervisor Calhoun.
Yes, sir. I was prepared to make a motion, I guess, because I'm quite familiar with the contractual agreement between Hinds County and the Capital Area Bar Association, and also familiar with, well, how the fund, where the funds are coming from, and if you would explain how the funds are assessed and how they are channeled through the accounting department of Hinds County. But I was prepared to make a motion, but if the board decides not to move forward, then we will delay taking action.
Yes, ma'am. My understanding is that there's a $2 added into the total when someone files a lawsuit in Hinds County in circuit court or chancery court or county court. I do not believe it has anything to do with criminal filings, and I don't believe it includes justice court. Those sums are gathered or paid over into the county into a separate fund from its general fund. That fund is a restricted fund which can only be utilized, as I said, for law library purposes. The Attorney General's opinion gives us pretty good flexibility. We were able to purchase the Elmos. The county was able to purchase the Elmos out of the library fund, thus avoiding having to pay general fund monies for that purpose. As far as the contracts themselves, what we would be requesting that the contracts would be approved subject to the board attorneys tweaking them. There were some minor changes that he wanted us to make, which we had no problems with at all.
And the assessment is actually placed on the attorney.
Well, it's the person filing the lawsuit, which, you know, some attorneys are paying, some of the clients are paying, the litigants, it varies.
Attorney Taylor, I received this information via my wife, who works with the attorneys, that they're wanting to come before the board. So I basically put it on the agenda because of this particular meeting. I do not have it. I know all of the details, but they did advise me that you were aware of it. So I will yield it to you. Do we need to wait, or can we move forward with it today? In your opinion?
The method legally sufficient to proceed. So unfortunately, Mr. President, I got to defer back to the board as a decision as to whether the board is comfortable to proceed today. Once it's brought back at its meeting in 2 weeks, so they can look at the information themselves. But legally, it's sufficient.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. President, this is something I wouldn't mind voting in favor of. But, Mr. President, it's routine. I understand they sent it to me. I understand why that you have it. But remember, this body needs things to have something in front of them to read. You know, it might be the best thing in the world since sliced bread, but not to have any information, it set the wrong precedence. And, you know, if we're going to vote on something, and someone asks us what you think about this, we need to be able to say we read it or had a chance to read. So I hope we'll hold it, Mr. President, but if we move forward, I just vote no.
Is there any problem that would create for us to put it on the next agenda to vote forward?
No, sir, I don't believe so. I mean, we wanted to begin with, you know, the old contract expired at the end of the year, so the new one starts in January, but I don't think that'll be a problem.
In fairness to the supervisor over here. Supervisor Graham?
Mr. President, I'm in agreement with Supervisor Stokes. I'm not opposed to this issue. I'm going to vote for it, but I'd like to have something in front of me. I'm not going to really vote for anything that I've not seen, or I don't have anything tangible to look at. So thank you very much for your presentation, but I just want to have an opportunity to look at something.
And it is appears that you have a full board support. We just want to see what we're voting on.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and the board, and we'll get with Peter and make the minor tweaks and have copies of that provided to all of y'all prior to the next meeting.
And I will put it on the next agenda just because I think it's the right thing to do it.
Thank you very
Instead
much.
of my wife telling me.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. And I've got a feeling she's watching this presentation too.
Oh, yeah. They're always watching.
The next item that I have on the agenda is a resolution that we will present to the board as well as we're preparing it, but basically a letter supporting the town of Edwards in an event that they have coming up in March in reference to a Andrew Sugarman Daniels, an African-American gentleman who died, but his events occurred I think in 1969, where he was part of the efforts of a saving and also diving into the river when the bridge went out in Edwards. A lot of people were killed in that effort, and it was documented in the newspapers at that time and by the media. And the town of Edwards is going to host an event regarding that in March. And so, as part of the board, in support of the mayor in the town, I would like to provide a resolution to get the support of the board in signing that resolution when we have it put together.
So moved.
So that's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item I'd like to deal with involves authorization to restructure and organize county departments. We went over this in the work session, and Supervisor Stokes, I gave you an outline of some of those items. Right now, some of the departments are not operating as efficient as they could, and we perhaps need to look at reorganizing some of them or restructuring some of them so that we can do a better job of serving the public. One of the main things that I have discussed, especially with the county administrator, is that Hinds County has too many positive things going forward for those things not to be displayed in or shown or the public to be made aware of it. It is a large county. We have a lot of things going on, but most of the time we only hear about the negative things that are going on. And we have to work just as hard to present the positive things that are going on in the county, in the city, and in the surrounding areas. And one of the things that we looked at is that, especially the county administrator's department, is that her span of control, if those that are in leadership or management position understand that her span of control is too many people that are having to answer directly to her. So we're wanting to restructure or give the leeway to the department's heads to review their department organizational structure and make the necessary changes in order for them to be more efficient at what they're doing and how they're doing their job. So that is my motion to grant them that authority and that ability to do that. The ones we looked at particularly did not require any new position, but pretty much reorganizing some of the things that were already there under their control structure.
Second.
We have a motion made by myself and a second by Supervisor Greer. Question by Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have 4 pages. The restructure, would that be your recommendation on the second page? And what is the 3rd and 4th page?
As you're looking at it, if you go back to your first page, that is the overall county structure that is laid out on paper in those different organizations. It's not saying that all of them need to be changed, but we need to review all of them. The second page deals with the county administrator's department, is what is printed in the book. This is what the county administrative office should look like. And that's not saying that we will go back to that exact sheet. We'll review the entire thing. The third page is what we assume that she's doing, that you have the Board of Supervisors, then the county administrator have all of those departments. I think it's what, 17?
That's just an assumption, the 3rd page.
No, that's actually fact. And one of the things I spoke concerning was the position that I'm in now as supervisor, that I had the unique opportunity of serving just about at every level of city and county government. And one of the things as a permanent zoning, I was part of those departments under her that had to answer directly to her. But it's just too many. There's 14 departments that answer directly to her. And that's underneath her. The last page deals with the fact that not only does she have 14 departments directly under her, she has 5 supervisors and the board itself to answer to above her, as well as all of the different agencies on the side of her. So there's almost 25 different agencies that she's having to answer to on a daily basis, and it makes it very difficult if you're running from problem to problem, incident to incident, for you to be able to promote the county or do some of the positive things within the county. So we wanted to look at, especially her department, and make some changes there. It would be similar, in my opinion, to the second page, but there will be some changes even possibly to that page there, the second page.
What kind of time frame are we looking at before those
She's
changes?
implemented. I think we'll get out of this meeting around 11 or 12, so maybe around 2 o'clock. You're fine with me.
You're going to have all the changes?
I would like her to start on it at that point in time. No, she has. I have discussed this with her, and we did talk about it in the work session. So there are some things already in the works and in place, but it's something that we don't need to delay. We need to start dealing with it right now.
Yeah, what, I guess, and I apologize for leaving that today, what changes that we know that you feel that's going to take place, and how would those changes improve county government?
One of the things that I foresee, and again, if you would like to speak concerning it as well, Mr. Davis, I will give that to you as well.
Do we have a copy of any of those predicted changes that you want to make?
No, sir. You have what has been proposed or talked about as far as what the existing structure is and what the structure is on the county's books as far as what the structure should be. And then I was reviewing that to see if that needs to be tweaked and how we can more efficiently provide attention to departments so that we can provide better service and more innovations and improvements in those departments.
I guess what I'm specifically trying to get, normally you find changes in government, you are eliminating some, are you merging, are you recreating?
We're looking at all of those. We got to this point because of the simple fact that I went to her and said, after observing this as a county employee, and after observing it as a supervisor, something needs to change. And all of those above that you just mentioned, I'm asking of this board to give her the opportunity to do those things, bring those things back to this board.
Okay, now that's what I need. If we vote on something today, it's not implemented. You tell her that she's going to look at it, bring it back, and then let us make a decision. She's going to implement it, and we don't have an input. You know, something needs to be made clear.
That would be the pleasure of the board.
As to a certain degree, we can only tell the county administrator so much to do. And I believe we might need to guide us with this by state law. Under this form of government, the county administrator is set up with authority. Now, what I need to hear to feel comfortable with this is that we're saying, okay, we're going to merge operations and inventory. Just as an example, we're going to cut back here, we're going to expand there. And I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing that, okay, you and her had a conversation. We're going to give permission today to go and start looking at things. But as a board, we don't know specifically what she's looking at.
If I missed
Sure. Administrator Davis.
Well, from my understanding, when Supervisor Reporter approached me about reviewing the structure and how have I been operating thus far, it is my understanding that I am to receive authorization, hopefully from the board today, to allow me to review the structure and present to you a proposed structure. There will be some consideration in consolidating or streamlining within that structure. So, from my understanding, this will be authorization to review the structure and bring a proposal back to the board to consider and support.
Now, my next question. In terms of your review, what do you foresee? Merging some of it, and if we merge some, are we cutting back on employees, or would employees go with the merger? How would that operate? How would that work?
I do see some joining of certain divisions within departments under the county administrator. I don't necessarily foresee any reduction in staffing, but I will certainly review that. But that has not been something that I initially felt should happen. But certainly functions can be consolidated to make them more efficient and operate in a more harmony. Because there's some overlapping in functions.
Where we at?
We're voting.
Second.
Yes, sir.
It has moved and been properly second. All in favor, you sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Now, that's just the look, right, Mr. President?
Well, understand.
Thank you.
All right. One other special recognition of county supervisors. As we were looking at some of the things, I would like to acknowledge two of my colleagues here on the board. One is Supervisor Kenneth Stokes for his hard work and efforts over the past weeks in dealing with the MLK celebration, from the banquets to the contest to the parade to you name it. It was happening this weekend. I do hold one thing against him. He did not allow me a budget for enough candy to get from one end of the parade to the other.
I tried to tell you that.
I did too.
And I'm feeling that I lost some votes because of that.
You certainly will if you don't.
Cannot run out of candy.
Can't run out of candy.
It was so, Supervisor Graham did warn me, and Administrator Davis was directly behind me in the parade. I had to stop my car and run back to her car to get a bag of candy, and I still ran out of candy. But we want to applaud you, your staff, for doing an awesome job of representing Hinds County, the city of Jackson, and honoring Dr. Martin Luther King. So we do thank you for that.
Mr. President, I want to thank you for being there. When we first started the celebration, we had to get permission from Mrs. Coretta Scott King. And younger in life, we appreciate speaking to Mrs. Coretta Scott King at that time, but since then, you realize what it was an honor, privilege, and a pleasure to speak with her directly. Everything had to go through the King Center. When we started, if you're going to do something in honor of Dr. King, you had to get permission from the King Center out of Atlanta. They had to give you permission, you let them know what you're going to do. They'd send you a poster with the theme and everything else. And that's how they would grade you as who was number one, number two, and those things. And we thank Hinds County, the city of Jackson, the state of Mississippi for slowly becoming number one celebration in the country. We thank everyone for participating in it. You know, when you talk about candy and the kids, you know, some people say don't get to adults. They'll say some mean things or bad words to you. But I don't think I've never seen Miss Cobb run out, man.
I know better.
We thank y'all so much, and it made a big difference. And one of the big, beautiful things that happened at the parade this year was Hinds Community College Bank.
here.
You know, people appreciate Hinds Junior College Bay. Want to thank Dr. Muse. We're going to send a letter to him. And they did a wonderful job in the parade. They allowed 5 band out of Houston, Texas. But thank you so much, Mr. President. I want to thank everyone for helping to participate.
Supervisor Graham.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just wanted to say to my colleague Supervisor Stokes, who's often criticized, ostracized, and as they say in church, names hung out on the highway. So I would just like to thank him and to, for one time, applaud him, which I haven't heard a whole lot of people do, for his efforts with the Martin Luther King Day Parade. So thank you very much, Supervisor. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you very much.
We also want to recognize he and Mrs. Stokes because they put on a wonderful banquet last night. We don't want to forget about the big event at Jackson State last night.
And the
Great
two-star
job.
general was there. We thank them. The mayor was man of the year. And a young lady, Tamara Cherie, in this community on Friday night, they had, I'm trying to think of the young people's words, on the models from all over the country, on the Broadway or Broadwalk, whatever they call it. But the young people, we can't forget the young people. And that's a mistake older people make, is not including young people in anything. If it's going to grow, it's going to take young people. We were glad that Ms. Tamara Cherie from 97.7 radio station.
Stand for man, Chris.
Oh, yeah, handle everything. And I forget my voice. I lost my voice 3 days ago. I was trying to do the best I can. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you again for that. And again, even in this day and time, we're still having to acknowledge the fact that we're pressing forward for harmony and racial equality in all division. The second part of that, I want to acknowledge another colleague, Supervisor Peggy Calhoun, and a major accomplishment that she achieved since the last meeting. She has been named the 3rd Vice Chair of the Mississippi Association of Supervisors, which basically entails she is the 2nd female to hold that position and the first African American to hold that position. And in 3 years or 2 years, you'll be president. In 3 years, she'll be president of the Mississippi Association of Supervisors. So let's give her a hand.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am honored to serve in a leadership role to assist in carrying out the mission of the Mississippi Association of Supervisors. The supervisor does consist of 82 counties, varying from a county that has square mileage of maybe 400 some miles to a county that has over 900 and something miles. So the counties are diverse. We do have a purpose. And that purpose is to provide regional leadership concerning critical policy issues that are relevant to the various counties in the state. And we're talking about critical issues from providing or ensuring safe communities to protecting public health, along with promoting economic development and also providing or managing development for land use. And again, it is definitely an honor. I must say, when I was notified that I would be the 3rd Vice President, I was totally shocked and almost speechless. And it is, again, for me, a grand honor.
And they don't for Hinds County.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I want to congratulate Supervisor Calhoun. And I think it's important that Hinds County slowly move up to the top of the county's leadership role. I can go back to my early days in the county when people like Pete McGee and Benny was a supervisor. And, you know, Hinds County was respected and other counties looked for Hinds County to lead and look for them for direction. And I think we got to get back in that position in the state. I think we got the people and the qualification, and it's gonna take this county showing the whole state that we're gonna lead and not follow. And I think that we can do it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Now, Mr. Stokes, we can start that at 2 o'clock now.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you, Supervisor Smith, and Mayor, and Supervisor McCoy. Thank you.
I have one other item that I'm going to hold it until executive session, discussion and action regarding the radio maintenance contract. We'll move on. The Honorable Peggy Hobson Calhoun.
Yes, sir. I have this morning a resolution honoring the life and legacy of Mrs. Dolores Orrick. Dolores Orrick was definitely a mover and shaker in our community. She was a believer and a opponent of civil rights and worked very hard to reassure and ensure that all people were treated with racial equality. And I make that motion that we approve the resolution. She passed, and as I said, female of great honor.
It has been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor, use the sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Yes, sir. The next item that I have on the agenda is the discussion of our E911 budget and an RFP process. Excuse me. At our last meeting, I had presented information showing that EOC will have a deficit and will encounter the inability to pay for our recurring debt by August of this year. And that deficit will reoccur projected through the year 2018. And it is incumbent upon us to try to erase the debt or come up with means for, again, erasing that debt. At our last board meeting, our interim EOC director had provided us with some recommendations. I don't know if he's going to represent this morning or our new EOC director, but I would like for them to come up and discuss their recommendations, and I am prepared to make a motion in regards to.
Thank you. Last week, you were going to give us a copy also, Mr. President. We still ain't got a copy.
I don't have anything. I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
At the last meeting, we asked for a copy of the recommendations. He said he was speaking out his head, and today we haven't received a copy of those suggestions, what he spoke from, and any of that.
Right. I have not provided the board with a copy of the written recommendation yet.
Right. You can't discuss what they are.
The recommendations that I made at the last meeting, first of all, board attorney, I'd like to ask the board attorney. Am I okay discussing this?
You can proceed. I'll stop you if you get in trouble.
Okay. Okay. The recommendations that I made at the last meeting in reference to the E911 budget was to cancel the site maintenance contract, the $122,000 and some odd dollar contract. 90% of the work can be completed, in my opinion, by the EOC staff. There will still be, some monies that have to be spent on maintaining some of that equipment, but at a significantly less amount than that.
Council, now, it's called site.
This site, I don't have it in front of me. The exact name is the site maintenance contract.
Could you explain what the functions are in regards to the site maintenance contract?
The site maintenance includes cutting the grass around 3 of the tower sites that the county owns, maintaining the buildings, the smoke detectors, making sure the roofs don't leak, air conditioners, generators, UPS, your battery backups, the service on all those, in my opinion, all that can be completed either in-house or, at a significantly less rate.
Supervisor Graham.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Again, we're being asked to vote on something I've not seen. And I'm not going to vote on anything that I've not seen. And I think that what we need to do, if we're going to move forward, I think everyone acknowledges that there are some difficulties with some of the way that we've been operating in the past. But I think that we need to allow the new EOC director, Mr. Ricky Moore, who's here, an opportunity to look at that before we start jumping into canceling contracts without even the board attorney giving us some ideas to what we're doing. So I don't know what we're doing. The only thing I know that we're doing, we're being asked to vote, and I think that's unfair. Supervisor Stokes asked for memos last 2 weeks ago. We did not get a memo. At least I didn't. I don't know if you did or anyone else did, but I think we need to look before we leave and not vote until we have an opportunity to look at what we're voting on.
Supervisor Calhoun, then Supervisor Stokes.
Yes, sir, thank you. The board attorney and this board, I'm sorry that you didn't provide the information personally to the supervisors, but this discussion has come up on many occasions at a board meeting, and the board attorney and staff are aware that this discussion came up last week and that this discussion would be coming up again this week, and they have had the ample time to review what we are requesting this morning. You have explained what the various functions are regarding the contract. That is to cut grass. Surely people can, we can provide the grass cutting. You mentioned servicing the generators, and staff can perform that function. Also, Mr. Moore is aware of what the functions are. He is a long-time EOC employee. He was a long-time EOC, and as he says, he's back. So he's familiar with the contract. So I think I'm deferring to the people who are in the EOC department, who perform these, who are most familiar with the duties and responsibilities that are being provided, or the functions that are being provided through this contractual agreement that we have. We have no choice but to take action. We have a deficit. It's a reoccurring deficit. We cannot pay the bill, even if we continue the contractual arrangement. We cannot pay the debt. If the contract is terminated, it will help some, but it will not erase the debt that we have. We're talking about by the end of this year, December 2014, we will have a deficit of $151,994. By the end of June 2018, we will have, it's been projected that we will have a deficit of $2,017,148. This discussion has occurred again over years. And even though the prior EOC director that first brought this matter to our attention is deceased, but he informed the board back, I believe that was in 2007 or 2000, I'm sorry, 2008 or 9, that the department was headed for trouble. The former EOC director, Mr. Young, again informed this board that the department was headed for trouble. Now, we can keep delaying taking action if the board so decides, But this board needs to take immediate action. Stop coming up with excuses. You know there's a problem. You know we cannot afford to pay contractors. And I'm sorry, I wish it was different. But the EOC department is broken. If the EOC department is broke, then Hinds County is broke. And we've got to take action to correct the financial problem that we have that's pending before us. So I suggest that the board move forward. We're not talking about a contract that's going to jeopardize the county. And again, we're only talking about $30,500, which again, we cannot afford to pay. So I suggest that this board give the EOC, and give the authority to the board attorneys to work with terminating this contract. We can't pay them anyway unless the contractors want to come forth and say, well, we will continue the contractual agreement with no charge. But right now, I'm sure like any other contractor, they want their money, and we don't have the money.
Supervisor Stokes and myself, and Supervisor Grant.
Mr. President, the only word I can think of is shame. It's shame for this board to sit up here. We are a legal entity, and we sitting up here talking about ignoring a contract. Look at Judge Sampson, then he just looking. You can't enter into a contract with people and say, well, I don't like you, I'm going to just walk away and not pay you. That's why you have a contract. A contract is an offer. It's an acceptance, and it's consideration. You got to have cause to stop having a contract. You can't just say, I don't like your shoes, and we're going to not pay you. We have a contract with people. It's a difference than you just saying, well, you can come here and do this, versus a signed contract. That's anywhere in business, you have contracts to make sure that these kind of situations won't happen. You can't just say, I don't like the way you dress, and we're not going to pay you. If you bought a contract, you're going to pay because you're going to be liable. Why do we have to go to court on things that we should know better about? These are contracts. And I don't see how legally y'all got to tell them up here that you can't just say, well, we just not going to pay people. They have a contract, they're going to go to court of law, and the judge is going to sit there and say, is this the contract? Did y'all sign this? Yes, well, y'all going to pay them. That's how contract law works. Thank you, Mr. President.
As it relates to the contract, these issues have been brought up numerous times and discussed numerous times, and we have asked of EOC to retrieve documentation concerning the maintenance contract as well as radio contract and some other contracts. Again, these are all contracts in the county. This is one that we're dealing with today, particularly this radio maintenance contract that we're looking at. Those documents was provided to EOC director and to the attorneys, and we have looked at them, and we do find a lot of deficiencies in those contracts. Secondly, we are also concerned about the contracts themselves as to whether there is even a need for the contracts within the county. Thirdly, it is my understanding and beliefs, and again, I tabled mine until executive session, but we're just going to deal with it now, that you cannot bind a new board to an old contract. All contracts are subject to review. And day one, we came in, we requested that, and we have discussed that. And we do have the authority to act on those contracts, any contract that is brought before the board. Again, this is not the only contract. Contracts concerning the attorneys, contracts concerning even relative to mine, all those have come before this board. But this is a particular contract that we're looking at today, having a background in emergency service, having a background in working in this field. I talked directly with the EOC, and we understood exactly that some of these things can be handled in-house. Myself personally, I do not support this contract, and I am the one that has put it on the agenda under my name. Mrs. Calhoun is discussing 911 budgets in RFP proposal. But it is my desire that we can save the county anything, especially as we're facing a huge budget deficit. This is not a make-believe number. This is a real number. We went from millions of dollars in the positive to now going to the negative $180,000 by the end of this year. And that warning buzzer has been going off for at least a couple of years. Supervisor Grant.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. How sure are we of the numbers? I disagree with the assessment of the original numbers as to what those numbers mean. However, again, we're being asked to vote on some things that we may have seen them once before, but we've not seen them today, and as you know about the numbers, that they will change. I have the utmost confidence in our EOC Director, Ricky Moore, because of his past experience. The only thing I'm saying is we need to allow him an opportunity to get his feet wet, to look at this, to see exactly what it means as far as the county. What are the consequences of our actions? What are the consequences of our actions today, 6 months from now, 3 months from now? We know the reason why some individuals want this contract canceled, but what are the consequences of what we do? And what are the long-term consequences of what we do? Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I would like to answer the question of what are the consequences. The consequences of canceling this contract, if the grass is not mowed around the towers, then the grass will grow. But I think we have a maintenance department that cuts grass all the time, that can cut the grass. If the generators need to be serviced, we have a staff that can call in someone to service the generators when necessary. And what are the other responsibilities? We're talking about basically a manual labor contract. And the services of that contract can be performed by Hinds County employees. Now, Mr. Ricky Moore, again, who has been an employee of Hinds County, is well familiar with this contract. I don't know why you need to get your feet in the winter, because they are already wet.
I will say this, if the board cancels this contract, we're going to pick up those services. There's not going to be any notice to the county for us, or we're going to lose something on our radio system. No. If y'all cancel this today, next week, 3 months, we're going to pick up the slack. We have a group at the EOC that, and we'll work with Public Works on the grass. We'll work with Central Repair on our generators. We'll pick up the slack. If y'all cancel this today or 3 months from now, we're going to pick up the slack.
Thank you.
Supervisor Greer, District 4.
Yes, Mr. President, I don't think it's any secret where I stand on this, these contracts. I'm completely in favor of that. I have had a discussion with the sheriff, and he will pick up those services, maintaining the sites for free. It's not going to cost us anything. So I'm completely in favor of doing that, and I would like to see us take action today.
Supervisor Stokes, I'm not sure. Did you hit your button?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's my fault. Mr. President, and I go back to the basic thing of a contract. If you're going to cancel a contract, you need to have a cancellation clause in the contract. You can't just come up all of a sudden, well, we're going to cancel this contract and we don't have no liability. Now, that's why you have contracts, to guarantee that these kind of situations don't happen. And I can see why the legal department people got a contract. Now, all of a sudden now we sitting up here, well, we're gonna cancel the contract. Contracts have a beginning date and an ending date. That's got to happen. Now, for us to sit here and then say that we're gonna just cancel the contract without even looking at the cancellation clause or whether it's a cancellation clause in there, and to say that it's a new board, this is not a new board. You got a few new board members. But whether that's true or false, it's got to be what the contract has in writing. Contract, most of them don't be in writing. We have to go by what's in writing. If there's no cancellation clause, then you're going to have liability.
We will, I will say
And
this.
again, Mr. President, let me say this. As I said before, you got to have cause. You can't just sit up here and say, I don't like how somebody look, or don't like their shoes, or don't like their mama, I'm going to cancel their contract.
At this time, if our legal counsel does desire to come to the front, there is a cancellation clause in the contract. I dispute the statement concerning whether this is a new board or not. The board speaks through its minutes, and its minutes as of last week indicate this is a new board.
But that's going to be challenged, Mr. President.
We'll deal with the challenge at that time.
You can't be a new board just because you got 2 new members. That's not even the majority.
Mr. Simon.
I think the question before the board is whether or not the board can terminate this contract.
Yes.
The board may take action on this contract if the board so wishes. The board does have the authority to take action, and the board can terminate this contract if it so wishes to.
Mr. President, I move to terminate.
Without a cancellation clause, is there a cancellation clause in the contract?
No, the board has authority to cancel the contract supervisor, whether there's a termination clause in the contract or not.
Can we cancel in and all contracts that we have in the same manner?
Yes, sir.
Is there liability?
There's potential liability.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We may need to clarify what the motion is.
I believe it is to terminate the site maintenance contract, right?
That's correct.
Site-
We have a motion on the floor. It has been seconded.
Mr. President, before you vote, who made the motion and who made the second?
The motion was made by
Mr.
Charlie
Greer.
Greer, seconded by Supervisor Carroll.
Okay.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Next, Ms. Calhoun.
Okay.
Thank you. By the way, welcome back to Hinds County.
Thank you. I look forward to working with all 5 board members, other elected officials, department heads. I'll be calling you in the next couple of weeks, trying to set up a meeting with everybody to talk and tell you my vision.
Are you still looking forward?
I put me out there today, didn't he? But yes, this is what I've always wanted to do. I used to tell my guys that I taught in my previous job, you cut me, I bleed government. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My next item is executive session.
Next, Honorable Kenny L. Stokes, District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the first item I have on the agenda is the order of the Hinds County Board of Supervisors to declare Mount Olive Cemetery on Lynch Street a historic cemetery.
So moved.
Second, thank you, Mr. President. The reason we want to declare this as a historic cemetery is because we had people to come to us from Jackson State and to explain to us, and I think even Ms. Davis' office, even said that if it's a historic cemetery, then the county can do some things. And I think one of the requirements, it must be 100 years old. And we went to the location, and it's way over 100 years old, Mount Olive Cemetery. And this will give us an opportunity to make some improvements to it. It's an eyesore, and I hate to use that word for a cemetery, but it's something worse than that. When you see students, a brand new business building, and people going to the lodge, and students playing tennis, and then you have crypts that's falling in, the brickwork, you got the graves that's caving in and opening up, and somebody must do something. I know the city of Jackson has tried to do something. It was privately owned, and under state law, it's like the county would be the one who can make the necessary improvement. Once we get it declared historic with us, we get the Department of State to also realize it's historic. So that's the statement, Mr. President.
Thank you, Supervisor Stokes. We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm going to ask now, we have a representative from Jackson State University, and just so happened, I was bringing here, come on, I had two officers. I'm so used to being with the city, I forgot he's over here to that. He's actually be all right. I asked them to come for several things at Jackson State. I think they're in the process of doing a new housing unit that's going to fit Hinds County, and I think they also in Jackson State is still pushing for their don't stay, but I think the housing unit is what we'll start with today. And when you go back to the camp, let them know we're trying to help also with some material. Yes, ma'am, let you introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Stokes, for inviting us here today. I'm Kimberly Hilliard, Executive Director for the Office of Community Engagement, and many of you are probably familiar with my colleague, Jason Perkins, who is the Director of the Center for University-Based Development, which is our community development arm for the university. First and foremost, paramount to our mission is to grow the university. Our goal is to have 15,000 students within 5 years. We're right at 10,000 students, and so we're quite pleased that this is our path. But in order to do that, we need to expand our infrastructure. But I first want to tell you the things that we're doing to ensure that we get to 15,000 students. Our Madison campus is doing quite well, even though it's not in Hinds County. But we will be opening our 101 Capitol Street downtown campus this year. That's at the corner of Capitol and Ferris, where we will offer professional development certification classes, as well as our urban and regional planning department will be there. We have developed a unique partnership with Holmes and Hinds community colleges, and then we will be expanding our online offering. Within the next week, we will be having several grand openings. If you have not been on our campus, it is a marked difference. This year or this month, we have already opened the Apple Store, which is the only one in the city of Jackson. And so we are recognized as an Apple Distinguished University. That's one of 5 universities in the nation. And we have been recognized because of our iPad initiative. Every incoming freshman receive an iPad that they will have in the tenure of their university experience. So in 2 years, we will be textbook free. And so we are quite pleased with the innovation that we're going forward with and the recognition. We are one of the few universities who own our own UPS store. The store is open, it is in our student center, and we hope that not only will it be a service to the university, but to the residents in West Jackson. We also have a Starbucks coffee shop in our library, so when you're on campus, come by and get a great cup of coffee or a smoothie if that is your choice. And our campus is completely wireless. So if you're in our internal and external spaces on any of our campuses, you will be able to experience free Wi-Fi. Our goal is to have a feasibility study that Mr. Brookings is working on to expand free Wi-Fi services to our community in a 1-mile radius for our main campus. We have record graduation. Our goal is not only to enroll folks, but to get folks to graduate successfully. So this year, we had a record graduation this fall where we had over 700 students graduate in our fall commencement. So we have 2 commencement services now. You will see in the next 3 months where we will go forward with our plan for the phase 2 for $10 million expansion for our new engineering building. Also, what Supervisor Stokes referenced is that we will have student housing on the end, but it's the eastern end of John R. Lynch Street. So this will be a privatized housing situation where we'll have dining facility as well as alumni and conference center. Also, Mr. Brookins, maybe I should have him talking about this. We are creating a university business district.
Now, when you say privatized housing, it won't be owned by the university?
It will be a partnership with the Jackson State University Development Foundation.
Okay.
Now, the University Business District encompasses probably, I would say, less than a 1 mile radius around the university. We have had several meetings with our neighboring businesses, and so we have created a University Business Merchant Association. And so you will see several things in our gateway to come. Hopefully we'll have an 18-foot tiger in one of our parkways to welcome everyone to Tiger Nation. We will have a campus art lighting project. I think you see an example of the tower, how it could be lit. We will also have to go into an agreement with various hotels and apartment buildings to accept our incoming students for our next semester. And then forward, we will be going forward with a new retail vendor in one University Place. One sports bar closed down, so we already have a retail space going in. And just to know, let you know how well One University Place is doing. We're 98% leased with our market rate housing, and we have 70% of the retail space leased at this time. Also, in addition, we have the Blackburn Middle School, where we'll be going into a partnership as a laboratory school. So you'll be hearing additional announcements roll out with that. More importantly, I guess everyone is asking if we're going forward with the Dome Stadium. Absolutely. So by the end of the year, you will hear our final plans of how we plan to finance, construct, and operate the Dome. And then I think I will leave it to the supervisors if you have any questions for us.
Ms. Higgins and Mr. Brooks, we thank y'all so much. And we just wanted y'all to come and just kind of talk to us a little bit about things, because we had seen the plan about the 600-bed residence hall. And that's going to be at Lynch and Pondexter. And a lot of times, that's where people come watch the band practice near there. So it's just more and more good development, and Jackson State University continue to be such a beautiful thing in our community. If you see the Christmas lights, I wish people could have seen those Christmas decorations all up and down the university. In my day, I think we used to call it what did we used to call the main walk? I know they called it.
We call it the plaza now.
That's what we call it. My daughter come with another name for that main walk, but it's all right. That's what we call it.
Okay.
But it was lit off up, and we just thank y'all so much for all the things that y'all continue to do. And we just want to bring you back sometime, just to kind of keep the board informed, and some things maybe we can do to help with some of the things you do.
We couldn't do it without your support. Thank you.
Mr. Brookins, I keep remembering you from the city. I forgot you're at Jackson State. They grow.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you all for coming as well. We appreciate the update and the information. We're excited about it with you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have, and I know that I have this judge here, Judge Ali Shamsuddin, and I asked him to come forward to the microphone. And I place this item on the agenda on item 4, county jail inmates. And I asked Judge Shamsuddin to come because the issue of housing of the inmates. And Judge Green said that once a felon has been not bound over, once he's facing resident and he's a felon, that the sheriff needs to take him, get him identified, I guess you call it welcome, and then we're going to put him somewhere. We have it on record, but he's here to talk to us about what makes can be done. Judge Sampson, Judge.
First, I'd like to say good morning to all
Good morning.
of you, supervisors. Good morning to all of you. And I appreciate you having me here this morning. And to kind of dovetail on what Supervisor Graham said, in church, as we say, a closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? And when Supervisor Stokes was a council person, he once said to me, you don't suffer in silence. And we're suffering. And that's why I'm here today. I'm a city judge, municipal judge for the city of Jackson. And it's getting, I don't want to just use the word annoying, it's getting frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating to me as a judge when I sit on the bench and the first thing I hear as soon as I sit down, Raymond is not taking any of our inmates. And we got two concerns over there. And one is the felony situation, but the other is the city situation. And it's kind of ironic, we were talking about contracts this morning and honoring contracts. And it brings to mind, for me, one particular morning, as I sat on the bench, and the first thing I heard again was, Raymond is not taking anybody that we sent. I got up from the bench, and I walked across the street, and I went and I talked to the sheriff. And I said, well, what am I sitting there for? How can you help us? What's the problem? We don't have any room, he says. And the response I get also from legal sewers. I'm an attorney. That's like telling a dentist to pull a tooth. But we're trying to find an answer to our problem. And the city of Jackson has a contract with the county. And I have people standing before me owing the city of Jackson thousands of dollars for fines owed to the city of Jackson that we can't collect because the word is out on the street, we can't do anything about it. When I first sat on the bench, it was amazing to me. I was sending people down to Raymond and pass them on the road when I'm going home. This is the type of situation that we have. Sending people home, telling them to come back in 6 months and do your time. Making a joke out of it. How the city of Jackson is going to collect its money if the detention center is not going to honor the contract to hold people when we say you owe us $3,000 or $4,000 and you're going to pay us or you're going to jail. Not to mention just the other misdemeanor criminal situations that we have to deal with. And on the felony situation, they don't seem to understand at Raymond. As a judge, for a felony, I'm the municipal judge, we have initial appearances. When a person is arrested, they come before, and the law says they must come before a judge within 48 hours. That would be me or one of the other municipal judges, if they are arrested by JPD. And we're the judges who determine what the bond is. Now that's our responsibility, but once we determine what the bond is, it becomes the sheriff's responsibility. But they're making our court staff social workers. Because we put a bond on a person and we get called back before the day is over, even at night, in the middle of the night. Can you lower the bond on this person so they can get out? And the people with the word out on the street, everybody knows, well, if you live in Madison, the bond would be $1 million. If you live in Rankin County, the bond would be $1 million. I've had to make bonds on some people as low as $1,000, $1,000, just so they could get out. then you hear on the news, this person was arrested for breaking in somebody's house, this person was arrested for breaking in somebody's car, and he was bonded out of Jackson Municipal Court for a $1,000 bond. And it falls back on us, and it makes the city look bad, or the county. And it's amazing to me, they always seem to have enough jail space for people who get arrested in Clinton or Terry. But when it comes to Jackson, they don't honor us. But they don't seem to understand. You know, our job ends. Once we put a bond on a person, it's the sheriff's responsibility to come to you and say, we need more space. I sat and talked with the sheriff, and he said, well, we know Part C is down. We got to renovate Part C. Okay? But then he said, guess what? When we renovate Part C, we're going to take the inmates from Part A and put them in Part C, so we still don't have the room. So how are we going to operate a court system over there with a contract with the county? And we're continually being told we don't have space. So, Supervisor Graham, I know you understand, closed mouth don't get fed. And we're not going to suffer in silence.
You mentioned also the writ of mandamus. Could you explain that in terms of...
If we're forced to file a writ of mandamus, which the law provides for us to do, that's a petition to any elected official to ask the court to make that elected official do his or her job, what they were elected to do. That's a writ of mandamus. That if this person refused as an elected official to respond to the people or to do the job for which they were elected to do or which they campaigned to do, then a court would say, you do your job or you be removed. So we are not trying to get to that point. I sat and I talked with the sheriff. As a matter of fact, I even said, look, we both out of Georgetown, we both went to Lanier, we understand each other.